The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People. All right, Drew, it looks like you're porting in from Crippling Hot Sauce HQ. Where are you located? Are you in Missouri?
Yep, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right. That's where it's going down, huh?
That's where it all. Actually, my warehouse is actually about an hour away from where I live because I live in small town, farm town, Missouri of less than 1,500 people in my town.
No way.
Like 15 acres and a lot of cows around me. And I don't have cows like specifically, but my neighbors have like horses. So it's a different vibe up here, but um, I grew up in a small town of less than 1,500 people. Who knew I'd be starting a business because nobody really in my hometown has a business.
Well, and that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg with your story. I've been digging into it lately. I've watched a bunch of your interviews, and it's a really exciting story. And the thing I like most about the story, as I've like taken in some of the content, is you do it with your own style, like you do it with your own flair. So I'm excited to dig in. So to start out, talk about how this idea of Crippling Hot Sauce went from a school project that was quasi-successful to a national brand.
Yeah, so I always say like the school project formulated the brand, but my mindset behind crippling started way before that. It actually started when I was about 14. At the time, I weighed 317 pounds. I was fat, and my doctors said that they're like, you don't have any choice. You're gonna be bedridden by age 18. And like up until that point, I never knew what I was gonna be able to do because I didn't really have friends that looked like me or anything like that. So I was kind of lost. But at age 14, I'm like, I'm gonna take the matter into my own hands and try to make a change. And that's what I did. Over COVID, I ended up losing 150 pounds. And then the year after, so that's kind of how I got into hot sauce. And then the year after that, the school project happened. It was due in 2 days, and I'm like crap. What am I gonna do? So I look down, I look at myself. I'm like, I like making fun of myself, and I like hot sauce. And as I got into it, I knew I wanted to dig deeper into it because I knew other people in my class would create like Jack's lemonade and not really put much thought into it. So when I came up with the name Crippling, I really thought deeply about what I would want it to look like, and I was like, I want to rewrite people's perspective around the disabled community because growing up, nobody outside of the disabled community really understood my sense of humor. They thought they had to baby me or treat me different, and that's what I was trying to get across to them the whole time. Is like, I'm just like you. I just have a chair to get around.
Yeah.
Standing room only seats are optimal for me because I sit anyway. So I create this idea around um using sense of humor to change people's perspective and go do that. And I wanted to donate 5% to cerebral palsy research, and I write this plan and I pitch it, and I'm like, man, compared to everybody else in my class, mine's a smash hit. Obviously, I'm gonna get 100. I'm a straight A student. 2 weeks later, I get the grade back. It's an 82, and it sounds good, but growing up, like I said, my brain was the only thing I had, so I was a really try hard student.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've never received that grade before. So I went up to the teacher at the time, asked him why. He was like, man, I really thought it was a decent idea. I just thought it was unrealistic and didn't think you could do it. So I used that motivation and kind of thought back to the time that my doctor said I wouldn't be able to lose that weight, and something clicked in my head, and I went home, did some research, and started making recipes and learning about hot sauce. And 8 months later, we launched. And fast forward uh, a little over 2 years later, last year alone, we sold over 200,000 bottles on the
Man,
mission to show that nothing isn't possible.
there's yeah, man. I love that story. There's a lot there. First of all, a downward nod towards that teacher. Like you have a good idea, you have a good project, and he gives you a bad grade because of his limiting beliefs. It's like, bro,
Uh,
there's so many things wrong with that.
I think I think I was just mad because I knew somebody that created a mock business plan called like, you know, his first name teas,
Yeah.
like making like tea that you can drink. And I'm like, he got 100. So I'm like, what the heck? He put no thought into it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like I knew he spent 30 minutes on it out of the when I had 2 days. Once I locked in on a name, I knew it was like something funny. So I like really put my thought into it. So over those 2 days, probably spent 4 hours of time and so I was like really confident when that happened. I was like, man, but I knew from day one, just like I did my whole life, I just had to prove them wrong because that's how I work. When somebody tells me I can't do something, I make it my life mission to do it. More, like I remember, even after lost the weight, my physical therapist and my doctors were like, "You'll never be able to walk with your walker again." And I worked hard over the past couple years, and I began to be able to walk a few laps with assistance again. And that's something that people with disabilities, once they lose it, they're typically not able to get it back. But just like I learned through determination and mindset, 99% of things can get done.
Yeah.
And like that's the huge thing. And people like I remember my family. They're like, where are you gonna get the money for this? But what I did is I knew from a young age, I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew I wanted to bet on myself. I didn't want to go the college route and kind of bet on some HR manager seeing the potential in me because I knew from a young age there's not many disabled people that get a chance to succeed in this world. Just because of the outside perspective. So I always saved my money from like birthdays and Christmases, um, and just saved it. And so I had $3,000 at the time, and so I spent the $3,000 on like I remember most expensive thing I bought the first run was the trademark for Crippling Hot Sauce, and then I bought enough for like 175 bottles just to test and thankfully, I all of our kind of friends supported that first run, and I sold that out in like 34 minutes,
Oh
and
my
from
gosh.
there I just like found a love for it. After I sold those first bottles, I'm like, man, this is I really see it becoming big, and so I ended up going all in after high school. I remember. So the summer of like the end of my senior year is when I decided to go in. At that time, we had um just over like 100,000 in lifetime revenue, just me messing around while I was in high school. And then the first full year of crippling, we did 1.4 million of me full-time crippling. We did 1.4 million in sales, and I really contribute that a lot of that's just not only the determination, but my family being so supportive. They never really put pressure on me that I had to go to college. They just knew they wanted me to do something and be as successful as I could be. So I really never felt that outside pressure to go to college or do anything I didn't want to do. And that was huge when finding my passion and realizing that business is something I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, man, like there's so many things that kind of stand out. The first is, I'm fascinated by this idea of, you mentioned like your parents kind of allowed you to find your passion, but, when you first decided to kind of lock in on the brand, right? You know, I love that it's not just about, oh, hot sauce. I like hot sauce. There's a lot of deeper stuff behind your brand, right? Like it sounds to me, and just hearing you talk for a second, this brand and this company to you is a symbol that anything is possible. Right. And so as you were looking for it, I can feel like the energy. And if you can describe this to me, what was it like when you found like the name and you decided to lock in on it, be like, oh, I'm going to call it Crippling. Like, what did that energy feel like? Did it feel like you found like energy in an idea and it kind of like was born then?
Yeah. Yeah. I knew like from the time that it clicked in my head, I knew that it was a fantastic idea. Like, obviously, back when I was in, high school, Liquid Death just launched, so that wordplay was kind of huge. And when it clicked in my head, I'm like, that is genius. And so I like thought it'd be funny to like do it, but I once again at that point was procrastinating high school student. Probably wasn't going to do it if I didn't get that grade. And really, I just wanted to. The original idea was to launch it, go to a farmer's market, and be like, I sold 100 bottles. I proved that my idea was feasible, but after that, when I launched, I remember the music teacher at my school. I go to a small town school, so the music teacher at my school found out what the business teacher at the time said and got mad. So he started helping me, reaching out to all the local news outlets and papers, and it just so happened that every single news outlet in my area said, "We love your story. We want to have you on." So after that, I got on the news, told my story, and that's when things really started to pick up because I realized that so many people really resonate with the underdog mentality of and like the middle America. You can do anything because you know I always said, as you said, it's more than hot sauce. Hot sauce is the vehicle that we sell to support the mission, but the idea behind crippling is giving the most left behind minority group in the world, 1.3 billion strong of physically disabled individuals, a platform to show it's okay to be yourself. Just be unapologetically yourself and go out there and get it, and stuff will come your way if you work hard. Not only that, but it's too, you know, anybody that's ever, had unfortunate circumstances to show them that, everybody has stuff they're going through, and like it's just like I like to say we're the hot sauce for like the actual like average like person that and person can get, but I mean we're never gonna have that corporate feel. We do this specifically to be a platform and get back to the disabled community. Have we done well, like revenue wise? Yes, but even to this day, money is not our main motivating factor. We're just using the money to fuel our mission and really just allow me to be the guide that I wish I had growing up
Yeah.
because I never knew like what I was gonna be able to do. So if I can inspire, 100,000 people or even a thousand people that they can start their own business or do whatever, that's what I want. And
Yeah.
the hot sauce is just a way to support my mission.
You know, there's this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's by a French philosopher, and he says the strongest weapon in the world is the human soul on fire. And it's cool that like not just with hot sauce and stuff like that, but you have a really like electric soul. You can tell that you're really excited by your idea. You're in line with what you should be doing. You're creating, and you've attached like this mission to it. And I think that's why people want to get behind it.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that you mentioned Liquid Death. I studied marketing in school. I do a little bit of like marketing and branding, and that's kind of all that sales is. But that was the first company I thought of when I saw your graphics and I saw your design. And for our listeners who haven't, run over to Crippling Hot Sauce or pull it up on your phone because the logo is awesome. It's like this like hot rod wheelchair, and it's like, it's funny, but it's also cool. And I love the juxtaposition in the words. It's almost like, I imagine those Liquid Death guys are like, you're going to name your company Liquid Death? And they're like, trust me. I bet you had a million people tell you, hey, calling this Crippling Hot Sauce, it might be offensive. It might not be a good idea. Talk to me about that. Did you get any backlash with that idea? And how did you know that it was the right, kind of like vein and medium to communicate what you wanted to with the brand?
Yeah, so what I did was obviously like before I even launched, I kind of did even my high school self knew I needed to like kind of test the market and see kind of what people thought about the name outside of my friend group because we all kind of have that sense of humor. So I went out and kind of went to, different, like, asked different people in different situations and different disabilities what they thought, and they all said, man, like, that embodies exactly how we feel and how we want to be treated. At the end of the day, we just want to be treated like average Joes, and like we want to be a part of the joke. We don't want to be like sitting there and you whispering to your friend behind all the thing. We want to be like involved in it. So once I got that validation, I was like, okay, let's do it. And actually, 99% of people love crippling, but I found that the people that don't like it are people that are trying to do good and stick up for the disabled community and just don't know the ins and outs of our sense of humor.
Hmm.
And to that, I say, like, crippling, like, going back to kind of mindset, crippling to me is not used in a derogatory way. It's used as an expression. And that crippling just embodies, like, toughness and resilience and, no matter your situation, you can get through anything. Because, there's been times that, um, that I felt down, but then, even to this day, but I go back to our mission and it really is able to pick me up and motivate me because I really feel like God put me on this earth to be like the messenger that like the disabled community needs, and I feel that energy full-heartedly. And so I just try to spread my mindset and positivity, and of course there's people that try to get in the way, but then again, you got to remind yourself that every successful company had doubters. And people probably thought Jeff Bezos was stupid when he started Amazon. Who would buy stuff online or Apple or what that? But at the end of the day, they all pushed through and prevailed, and they had ups and downs. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. And as long as you end up at the top, no matter how many zigzags, up, downs, that's what people are going to remind you of, going to remember you for. They're not going to remember, as soon as you win once, they're not going to remember all the times you fail. People have short-term memory in that sense. And as soon as you start succeeding, everybody's going to be on your bandwagon. But when you're building, everybody's going to be doubting. And that's
Yeah.
just the reality of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, Drew, it's amazing to me. You're 19, right?
I'm 19, yeah. Started at when I was like a month away from turning 17 when I started.
Wow. I was just gonna say you sound like you're giving this advice after like a long career of entrepreneurship and enduring. And I applaud you, man. Your development, you can tell you've worked on yourself. You can tell you've worked on your mindset because most people don't think and talk like that. Is it something that came natural to you? I mean, even talk to me about the weight loss because even like for a 14-year-old to get that kind of diagnosis from a doctor that in 4 years you're going to be bedridden, most people at that level of development would accept their fate. For you to say, no, I've got to say, and I'm going to change it. And then, I don't know, talk to me about that mindset. Is it something that you've always had? And what do you do to work on it?
So I would say I always had the that mindset to a certain extent. However, when that weight loss thing happened, it really, really, really clicked in my head that you know I mm, I'm gonna live a pretty long life of many years, and at the end of the day, I want to be in control of my life. I don't want to let my diagnosis be in control of me, right? Because that's what diagnosis, like cerebral palsy, can sound scary, but the great thing about being born in this day and age, there is so much adaptive equipment and stuff that you can be pretty, like just an average Joe and be able to do a lot of the stuff. I just found you just have to be willing to go out there and get it. And I knew that this was kind of like gonna be the turning point. As soon as they said like you're gonna have to make a change or you're going to be bedridden, I knew that was going to be the turning point in my life, because I knew that your high school years are the most formative, and I knew that, if I didn't make a change, my whole life would basically be ruined just past the cerebral palsy. So I'm like, I owe it to myself to try to make a change. And so that's when I really kind of realized that life is more in your control than you think it is. The mindset um behind you is actually what affects it, though. Like, how are you going to look at life? Are you gonna say, yeah, you're right, and just let yourself be bedridden, or try to push against the grain and really, really get what you deserve out of your life? Because at the end of the day, you're statistically, what is it, like 1 in a trillion odds that you're even here on Earth? So there's many people that don't even get this opportunity for life, and you only have one chance at it. So are you gonna make the best of it, or not? And that's kind of how I looked at it. And at the age of 14, I decided, I'm like, I'm taking life in my own hands, and I'm going to be as successful as I know I can be. Not maybe I can be successful. From the age of 14 on, it was, I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to kick everybody's ass that's lazy and takes their situation for granted. I just knew that, like, I had something, a gift, and my gift was my mindset. And I'm very lucky that I'm not, like, my brain is not impacted. And once again, I think God gave me that gift for a reason. So I knew I only had one shot at it, so I didn't want to screw it up by being lazy and just kind of taking my situation for granted. Because it sounds weird, but I really do think, aside all, I think my disability is the best thing that ever happened to me. Why? Because it gave me real perspective. Like, I never was privileged. I never was given anything. And that gave me the opportunity to not feel like I I needed to be handed everything. I always wanted to work for everything, because I wanted to feel like I was a productive member of society. And I think if I was just a regular teenager, I don't think I would have that perspective. And I think would not be where I am today without my disability. I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually one of the things I'm most thankful for, just because of the perspective it has given me.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty inspiring, man. I'll often go back and listen to these conversations after the fact, because you get something out of them when you listen to them versus when you're in the conversation. And I got to tell you, man, like I'm super inspired by that, and I just keep thinking that these are lessons that generally you learn after a whole lifetime of contemplating and thinking about adversity and what it's really done for you. But the fact that you have that perspective now, I mean, you're absolutely, dude, you're 19. You are just getting started, and this idea is awesome. Um,
Yeah.
what about the times where you haven't felt like that? Are you naturally optimistic all the time, or what do you do when you get bummed out or when you start to let the demons sink in?
Um, I'm not like that all the time. Sometimes I do get, kind of discouraged, because, like, even to this day, there's some things that I want to do that my friends are doing that I can't do. But
Mm-hmm.
I realize I have to not worry about what I can't do, and just double down and get really good on the things I can do. Because at the end of the day, worrying about what you can and can't do is not going to help you, because some of the stuff you just can't change. Like, growing up, I always wanted to play ice hockey, but I let that kind of go by the wayside, because I realized there's some things I really can and can't do. But you know what I did? I transitioned into, it's called power soccer, and became one of the best players in the world at that time. I was 12 years old, and on, like, one of the top teams in America. Why? Because I didn't I didn't get to do what I wanted to do, but I transitioned all that energy and willingness to be great into another something that I could do. And like, that's just like, it goes back to perspective, and I really think like it's okay to be down, but at some point, like being down just not only makes you feel miserable in bed, but that energy like goes off to other people around you. And I always just wanted to everybody around me be the best they can be. So I knew if the optimistic one was miserable, everybody else is gonna be like, man, he's right. But I knew like that energy really carries. So being able to battle through those doubts really just kind of allow me to kind of stay focused because of course like you're like am I doing the right thing, should I do this or that, but at the end of the day once you're in it, and so once I'm in something I never give up until I'm finished. And so that's kind of the mentality, and how I stay grounded and level-headed is I've started crippling. We're going full steam ahead until we finish or exit or whatever happens with it. So I just never let myself get sidetracked. I just the number one thing how I got past is just not giving AF what people think. People are going to judge. But at the end of the day, 99% of people that judge, you're going to see them maybe once in your life. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a core group of people that really believe in you. Because at the end of the day, there's over 1 billion people in the world and 1 billion opinions. You're not going to make everybody happy. But what you can do is make your inner circle really proud of you. And that's kind of how I structure things and how I think of things.
Yeah. I definitely think I think that's 100% right. People focused on impressing those around them and finding those are like the core human needs. You've got self-actualization, you've got contribution, you've got community, right? Like all of those things that you've tapped into. And again, I think you're just getting started. I want to make two quick call outs. One thing that I've just noticed as I've heard you talk that I think is really valuable, and you just spoke to it as far as like focusing on what you can do versus what you can't do. But you've now said twice, like, I knew the best thing I had going for me was my brain. You mentioned it when your teacher gave you a bad grade because you're like, you mentioned that hurt double bad because you're like, oh, like this is a brain thing and I'm good with my brain. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned it in the last conversation. I think it's really valuable to say like, hey, let me lean into my strengths. Let me focus on what I can control versus what I can't. And I think that's I don't know if you know much about our business and our organization, but we do renewable energy. We do rooftop solar. And I'm part of a door-to-door sales force. There's thousands of people that sell this door-to-door. And so a lot of the ups and downs and, starting with a vision and then getting discouraged and what to focus on is all very, very applicable, to our job. So just want to thank you for that. And I love the mindset of like, hey, my brain's the best thing about me. If you push on my ability to do something with my brain, I'm going to prove you wrong. I really like that.
And I think another thing that also helped me is realizing that everybody has weaknesses. And like growing up when I was super young, I thought everybody was good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I just thought I was the one, but then I realized most people are like bad at a lot of things and only good at a few things. So like we're just the same way. We're bad at a lot of things, but we're able to channel in on the few things we're really good at and become really good those things. So I think it's just once again going back to we're just like we're just like you, and our limitations are just a little bit more visible, but everybody has their own challenges and stuff they can't do and stuff they wish they could do and goals. So I think it's not just another thing that helped me once again is the perspective and realizing we're all human and there's hopes and dreams and stuff we all want to do, but just aren't physically able to pull off for whatever reason, whether that be financial, physical, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's real, man. I definitely agree. I can feel the conviction in that. Let's get to, I love the logistics. Like, I love the inspirational stuff, but I wonder how you go from being 14 with an idea to actually getting bottles, making recipes, getting branding done, getting distribution done. I know that I actually love all the names of the hot sauce too. You should throw out a couple of your favorites. But how did you get started? Because you didn't have a background in that. You were young, you were under resourced. You said you only had some birthday money and stuff to start this up. How do you like educate yourself and actually start creating and shipping a viable product?
For me, I realized this day and age, technology is at your fingertips and you can learn anything without much money. So what I did, I went I took my happy ass home and went on Google how to make hot sauce. Studied. Studied what people use, what pH was, different things, and then from there you get a base hot sauce recipe and then you start tweaking. I knew, like, just game of numbers. As long as you get yourself in the game, just like as long as you s- in your field, as long as you start knocking on doors, statistically you're gonna hit some, and every time you're gonna get better. So what I did, bought 50 mason jars, made 50 recipes. That first recipe was terrible. But by the time you get to recipe 49 or 47 through 50, which is the ones we launched with, those get good because repetition wins every time, no matter what. It just depends on how many shots you're willing to put up. So you can literally teach yourself anything with Google and nowadays AI, and that's what I did. After that, I went through my phone and see what resources. My cousin just so happens to be a graphic artist. So I knew if I drew the logo, it wouldn't look very good. I got cerebral palsy. But what I did was like, I had like four things in mind. I texted it to him and we started working on the branding. And then I went to, I found that, a lot of people are just like, two people away. Like, if you want to get to something, probably two people away. So somebody you may know might not know the person you're trying to get to, but that person may know somebody that knows somebody. So when I was looking, I'm like, man, how do I get, you know, labels? And then I just so happened to find somebody that I know that knows somebody locally that does labels and so on and so forth. Where do I get peppers? Oh, I knew somebody that knew there was a produce row up in the city on the street. So from there, I combined everything and just sold to family and friends. And when I graduated and we were time to scale, go from 100,000 to 1 million, what I did was I was playing Call of Duty at the time. I was on chat with my best friend since third grade. I'm like, you know what? I dare you to take a chance and drop out of school and come work for me. He's like, dude, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. I'm like, you should do that. It would be, it's gonna be the best opportunity of your life. Um, and then so he took it so I could pack orders. But then after that, I had $750 left in my account, and I'm like, shit, like I don't know how to run ads. Where can I find somebody affordably? So I reached out to somebody I know, um, that was a retail broker. Um, and he was like, I used to work with this guy that's like good and very affordable price. It just so happened that that guy's first month, all he wanted was $750.
No way.
So it allowed me to get my ads running, to have somebody pack orders. And then after that, just like it, the ads were testing, the stuff was doing it. And then after that, from there, it was just getting the story out there. So going to, going to going to events, going to, distributors, going to stuff like that. And now fast forward to today, we do about 80% of our business online, but we're also in like the two main grocery stores and in Missouri, and it didn't happen overnight, and took a shitload of work, and of course I needed help, but uh, the important thing is I didn't give up. I could have give up. I could have given up when it was time to scale and go get my friend Aiden because quote I didn't have anybody that was willing to work for me. But no, I had the balls to ask somebody that already was in college to come join me. 9 times out of 10, I've learned that if you ask, you're more than likely you're gonna get it. It's the people that don't ask for stuff that don't get the stuff they need. Communication is the number one important thing, no matter where you're at in life. If you want to get into a retailer, cold email them. If you want to, you know, get into on Amazon, find somebody on LinkedIn. If you want to find an investor, rip DMs on LinkedIn. And it's never going to be the first person you reach out to most of the time, but I guarantee if you knock on 4,000 doors, somebody's going to say yes. And that's the door knocking mentality that you probably have as well. And that's just kind of my life motto. You're
Yeah.
going to be told no more times that you are told yes, but those people that say yes really believe in your vision in the product, and those are the people you want. At the end of the day, if they don't want to hop on your rocket ship, then you don't actually want them because culture is the number one thing in startups, especially starting out, because starting out, you don't have a ton of money. And I never did until we're just now raising our first round for some inventory. But like I never had money, but what I did is we had a good atmosphere and we had fun. And like we realized that something that's more important than money is fun. Because in your 20s, that's your time to double down, take all the risk in the world, and go after your passion. Because at the end of the day, you're probably gonna live 100 years. So if you throw out 10, 15 years of your life and you're still 35, you got your whole life to climb that corporate ladder and do what everybody else says you should be doing. But if you don't at least try for a little bit to go after your dreams, then you're doing the wrong thing.
Man, I agree. I agree 100%. And especially the culture thing. Like when I think when you look back at, you know, the long road that you're on, I think you're going to look back to those years when you didn't have money, when you didn't have a whole lot of knowledge, when you're figuring things out with you and your cousin and your buddy. And those are going to be some of the most fun times. They don't always feel fun like when you're in them, right? But like when you look back at it, you're like, it's only fun if it's important and hard and difficult. And I think that, I think your life will be full of those moments. Uh,
And I think that's an important thing because TV always paints entrepreneurship as the most fun,
right.
sailboats, yachts, and party. But that's when you're in the weeds the first, 3 to 5 years, that's not what it's like at all. And so you really if you want to be good at entrepreneurship, you really have to, you know, be willing to chase what you want and be willing to get, punched in the face and get back up. I always say entrepreneurship is like a boxing match. You're gonna get punched in the face. But if you just stay in the game, you're gonna have a better chance at winning it than if you just give up. And I think one of my favorite quotes is I think the CEO or the founder of NVIDIA said it. He's like, entrepreneurship is like jumping out of a plane and trying to fix it on the way down.
Hmm.
So like that's kind of the mentality that um I kind of go back to is yeah, this is a shit show, but being chaotic is fun, you know. Not having like anybody telling you what you have to do is great. Just being yourself, that's great. I don't want to answer to a boss or something. I can just, if I have a fun video idea, I don't have to get it approved through corporate. I can just do it.
Hmm.
That's my favorite part is the freedom, because growing up with a disability, I didn't have much freedom. I always had to be attached to somebody so they could help take care of me. So entrepreneurship allows me to have that freedom that I always wish I had growing up.
Yeah. That's a great outlook on it. I love that point. Um, Give me a couple, just because you didn't say them, give me a couple of the names of your favorite bottles, just so our listeners can hear like how
So we
this
got
extends.
so we got special treatment, and like and my two favorite are special treatment and Lisa Beach. And you might think, how do I come up with this stuff? And it's just like whatever is happening in my life is like what like how I come up with it. I remember like why I came up with special treatment is because I was thinking when we were releasing our first limited edition flavors, like, what am I trying to stop with crippling? Like, I know I say like nothing is impossible. I want to be the guide, but like, what do I want to stop? So I said, you know what? I want to stop all the special treatment we get. I just want to be treated like a normal individual. And like, I remember, like, um, I was like, and this was at the time where, like, for the second LTL Life's Beach, I was like. I was like in that time where getting rejected a lot from retail or whatever it may be, and I was like, man, that sucks. But life's a beach, and that's kind of like my motto now is like, man, life sucks sometimes, but that's okay. Like everybody's life sucks at moments, and then I remember the flavor names for the original three themselves. I actually had them picked out before I did the sauces just because I thought they were funny. So we got Just for the Parking, Limping, and Crippling Agony. And those were the original three. And I think, actually, the medium was the hardest one to come up with. Because I'm like, what is in the middle of Just for the Parking and Crippling Agony? Like, that's a wild
That's
range.
missing, huh?
Yeah, and so that's what I came up with, and that's what I think is incredible is the what like once the ball starts rolling, aka like getting in the ring, like the ball started rolling once the name clicked in my head. I knew like it just started clicking in my head what I should name it. What should I name the mild sauce? Oh, Just for the Parking would be funny. What should I name the medium sauce? Limping. What should I name the So I really think that's an important lesson because you're not gonna have everything figured out the first launch. I remember the first launch, dude. I didn't even have the flavor names on the bottle. Like it didn't even say mild on the front of the bottle. It just said crippling hot sauce. And you know what I did? I tested, and my family was like, "Dude, what the hell is this? I don't even know what it is." I'm like, "Oh shit, you're right. Like, I need to put mild on the."
You like accidentally take a ghost pepper and it like ruins your week.
So like, those were the early days. Testing still, but the product still existed. I'm a firm believer that the product doesn't have to be 100% at launch because the more you try to make it 100%, the more you're gonna put it off, which means the less likely you are to do something. So what I did was launch it. First label was crap. Second label, what I did was I went on a Google Doc and typed mild in green, medium in yellow, um, and hot in red, and put it on the label. People are like, Drew, this is not attractive. I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. So then I'm like going to my cousin who's a graphic artist. Can you make this actually look good? And so through 5 different renditions, the labels we have now is kind of what we've been with for the last year and a half, and those are much better. But I say that to say that like I think the best data is consumer data. So I don't think you should be trying to necessarily make the product perfect. You should launch the first rendition, hear what the customers have to say, because at the end of the day, you're selling to the customers. Otherwise, you're playing mental warfare with yourself, trying to figure out what you would buy when you're only one person.
Yeah.
So like that is my number one business advice is just, do it. My product, probably looking back on it, was not ready to launch at all. But guess what? I launched it and we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's great. You have such a good like branding mind. Like the way that you think through things a couple steps further. You kind of capture like the essence of what you're doing, and I think that's why people are so drawn to your brand. I mean, you guys have done over 2 million in revenue. You've sold more than 500,000 bottles of this. Like people connect to it because you've infused your mind and your cause kind of into it.
Yeah, and I contribute that to my like the authenticness of the brand. Like I never acted like we were corporate or we were, our ads are not your traditional, oh, buy our hot sauce. It's are you jealous? I got cerebral palsy and you don't. It's stuff like that. So I think it's just like the refreshing nature of, oh, there is, somebody out there that's not so corporate, and oh, and the product is actually good. Oh, and he does a good for the community. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people miss out on, like talking to some of these like investors. They're like, well, 5%, that's a margin crunch, and have you ever thought about doing something else? I'm like, no, the reason why we do it is because of the mission.
Yeah,
And like that's what brings people in. We actually probably do a little bit more business because we have a mission and purpose. We're not just selling hot sauce, we're selling a mission. And that's what I think so many people miss out on is money is great, but a purpose behind what you're doing, at least for me, drives me far.
I
And
agree.
so that's what keeps me motivated is the mission, not necessarily the hot sauce. It's a great product, but there's thousands of hot sauces out there. But what keeps me motivated is that mission to not only prove that nothing is impossible, but give back to the community that affects 1.3 billion in the world.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that cause because you do more than just donate. When I was talking to your cousin and business partner Josh, he rattled off some stats about the amount of disabled people and how many of them are unemployed. You kind of started with that, but talk about what like the traditional workforce is missing in this population of people that seems to be largely overlooked.
Yeah, so 86% of the disabled community is unemployed. Not because they don't want to work, but because they can't get jobs. And even the ones that want jobs, sometimes medical bills are so expensive. Like, a lot, this is interesting. So many people think having a disability is is a financial cheat code, and the government gives you, $20,000 a month or whatever. Basically, turns you into a trust fund baby. But just to see, I looked into it. The max somebody like me in my situation can can qualify for from the government is $800 per month, and that's not enough to live on.
No,
And so I think that's also very important as painting the real picture. Not only that, but if you didn't have a supportive family like I do, if you in my state, if you make over like $21,000, you lose your benefits, and many people can't afford to lose their benefits when my wheelchair is 60 grand. My my bed is expensive. Things I need for daily life is expensive. So what happened was I was telling people my struggle, they're like, you have to go, you know, speak to Congress. Like, how am I gonna do that? And like I was like, that's never gonna happen. But it just so happened, like, just grinding one day, and I get a call from like the guy that runs my local like grocery basically incentive where like all the grocery like stores are members in Missouri, and he's like, would you like to go speak to Congress? I'm like, what? Yeah, like about what? He's like about disabled and unemployment and how to make it better. So back actually in 2022, I I went to Congress, spoke to them about it. Because of that, I actually ended up joining the Shopify government collective, and to this day, I push for favorable disabled and minority-owned business legislation and try to get as many people that want to be employed as possible. And like that's one of my bigger missions. And what I do is like like I start with cerebral palsy, but going forward, our mission is going to be much bigger than them. It's how do I support, you know, not only people with cerebral palsy, but people that, can't afford medical equipment. People that, you know, doesn't have a supportive family, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, people in the disabled community, a lot of them are the smartest people I know on a certain topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're disabled, you like tunnel vision into whatever your passion is. So like I was explaining, I'm like, dude, if you ask like a guy, like there's a guy that was in my school, he was obsessed with trains. I think he probably knows the most about transit. So I'm like, imagine if you get these people a purpose and they get to show. So I think that's what people are missing, and it's not like obviously it's can be annoying to have to make accommodations, but I really think the disabled community could be a larger contributor than people are letting it out, like realizing, because obviously the chair does look intimidating, and the fact that a lot of people, this generation's getting better, but for the most part, like I was one of the first people at my school that wasn't ever separated into, the special needs class. I was in general population, and growing up, people were confused about, why I was in, college classes in high school, because no way his brain's fit enough for that. But I think just the mindset that people have, like I just think you need to go back to the old saying, treat people the way you want to be treated, and there's some people that able-bodied or not, they won't be able to perform, but you're missing out on a huge section of the workforce that can be valuable performers, but it's basically overlooking them because you're scared or you don't know how to deal with it, and yeah, some of this stuff is a learning curve, but like the learning has to stop at some point. You can't just push them, or start at some point. You can't just push them to the back of the line every time, because I think to this day we're like it's hard to find valuable, good people. Like people are more entitled than ever, and the job market's hard. So I think it's really coming around the pipe that you're gonna see more people that are C-suites that are in wheelchairs and stuff like that, and I'm seeing it. I think there's a lot of good things coming down the pipeline as far as employment goes, and I'm excited to hopefully be at the forefront and kind of be the champion and push it across the finish line.
Yeah. Well, no doubt you will. It's a compelling case, and it's a really inspirational cause. Well, Drew, I think you picked up a few thousand more Crippling Hot Sauce fans today, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'm so grateful for you investing in us and sharing your mindset with us. And, again, I think you got a really good grasp on it's not just about the sauce, right? That's what you're doing, but it's a vehicle to communicate and to push an inspiring cause and a developmental cause forward. So, look forward to whatever it is that you're on to next. I'm sure this won't be your only venture. And again, for everybody that's listening, go check out Crippling Hot Sauce online. The swag's good. The gear's awesome. The bottles are well designed. The brands are fun. I'm going to get a box of them tonight myself and see which of my family members can handle the heat. So, Drew, anything to close us out with, man?
Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, send me your address. I'm more than happy to send you some.
All right. We'll do it for sure, man. And hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been another episode of Electric People.
If you're listening to this and interested in joining our teams, DM us on Instagram at Run the League.
What are you waiting for? Run the league, shoot us a DM, and let's get going.